Hello, V Squad. This is your girl V. And guess what, y'all? It's officially Rum and Brunch season. We are scheduled for August 6th. So if you have not gotten your tickets yet, log on to www.VGirlTV.com and grab your tickets. Early bird tickets are now sold out. So it's $15 and $40, which is the premium option. Now, the premium ticket includes food, includes one complimentary drink, it includes a discount for valet parking, it includes early access to the event. So that means that if there is a line, you guys are able to skip because you have premium access to Rum and Brunch. You don't want to miss this event. It's the first of its kind ever in Panama, spinning the best in Afro beats, reggae music, soca music, dance hall, compa, you name it. Everything 100% Caribbean. You don't want to miss it. Rum and Brunch. Hello, V Squad. Welcome back to another episode of VGirl TV. If you watched my last video, you guys knew that I went to St. Martin, and I promised you guys that I was going to do a follow-up video about something that happened to me when I was leaving with my kids. Now, I know a lot of you that follow me on Instagram and you guys follow me on YouTube follow me because I live in Panama. I am a mom, and most of the time you guys are saying that you guys can relate to me. It's so strange that I'm even doing this because I haven't done a sit-down video in so long, but I personally think that this is something that you guys need to know. Okay, so when I travel with my kids, I often always have all my documents in order. Now, I know I did a video before about this same thing, but I had to do an update video about it. So I'm gonna leave the link in the description box of the last video that I did in regards to the same topic. Okay, so when traveling, I always, especially when I'm traveling with my kids and leaving out of Panama, I always leave extra early. So for example, my flight was at 7 o'clock a.m. and so I left my house at 3:30 because I wanted to be at the airport extra early. When we get to the airport, we check in normally, and then when we go through immigration, as usual, immigration gives me a hard time. When I leave with my kids, now my son was born in the States, my daughter was born in Panama. My son has residency here in Panama because he's been here since he was 5 years old, for those of you who do not know. And of course, my daughter was born in Panama, so she is Panamanian. So when we go through the airport, they ask you for the regular documents. They ask you for the regular documents, which is the passports and then the letter from the kid's father giving them consent to leave the country, which I was able to provide them with the information. And so then they asked me, okay, I need for you to prove that you are the kid's parents. And I'm like, what? And so this is something that I never had to deal with before. And I'm telling you, immigration in Panama is the worst. So I give her my passport and I'm like, hello, the passport. Now in every other country, your passport is supposed to be the most valid form of ID. It triumphs everything. But of course, in Panama, they make things extremely difficult. I don't know why it's this way, but it is that way, right? So I'm like, okay, here's my passport. She's like, no, you can't use a passport. I said, okay, well, what do you need? She's like, okay, the birth certificate. Never had to show them the birth certificate before, okay? Just a letter from the kid's parents saying that it's okay for us to leave. And now they're asking for the birth certificate. So I give them, I'm like, okay, well, I have a copy. Can you take the copy of the birth certificate? She's like, yeah. So I go on my phone, go look for the birth certificate, have both kids' birth certificate, show her the birth certificate. And then she's like, okay, well, you know what? I just don't even want to argue with these people. I just want to get to my destination. So if they're asking to see the original copy, here is the original copy. Anyway, make a long story short, I did end up having a apostle copy and a translated copy. I don't have any place for you to print it. So I'm like, do you guys have an email? I can email you the birth certificate. I mean, you guys are only going to take a copy of the birth certificate and throw it out the rest of the day. At the end of the day, they were literally going to make a copy of the copy and then throw out the birth certificate, which to me made no sense, right? So then I'm like, okay. So she's like, okay, you can go to the COPA desk and ask them if they could do you a favor and print out the copy of the birth certificate. I'm like, okay, whatever. But something told me that they were literally trying to be Juega Vivo. If you don't know what Juega Vivo is, it's something called people that always just trying to get over. And it's really, really sad. And I'm sorry that I even have to out this out. So after that, I was just like, okay. So then she goes and gets the supervisor, right? So the supervisor comes and he states that they cannot take the copy that I have on the phone, that they need the original birth certificate. So I'm like, okay, well, the birth certificate, they don't give you the original anymore. They give you a copy, which you get at the grocery store. And now at the grocery store, they're giving you a copy. It's like a written format of the birth certificate. And they're like, okay, well, yeah, well, you're going to have to bring that. Because now the supervisor says that you need the original birth certificate to travel, okay? And I'm like, why would I, who travels with original documents? And then he said that he was going to keep the original copy. And I'm just like, who keeps the original copy of anyone's birth certificate? That makes absolutely no sense. But of course, I was not trying to argue with these people because I had someplace to go. My kids was really excited that they were going on vacation and I didn't want to ruin it for them. So I said, okay, I'm just going to go home and get the birth certificate. So I go home, I get the original birth certificate. Come back to the airport because I live not far from the airport, because they were like, well, where do you live? Where do you live? Which I was just like, okay, I just live. There's like, oh, well, you're not going to get back in time. I'm like, okay, whatever. Spent $30 on an Uber to go back home to get the original birth certificate to come back to the airport. When I come back to the airport, she's like, oh, what happened? How'd you get back? And I'm like, what do you mean, how did I get back? I took a cab and I got the original birth certificate. Give her the original birth certificate for them to see that I am the child's parent, because same thing that I showed them that was on the copy, right? Then she goes, oh, let me see what my supervisor says. So I was just like, you know what? Let me just keep cool or whatever, okay? She comes back, right? And after she comes back, she says, okay, we're going to accept this, but the supervisor says that for your son, you're going to have to get his birth certificate apostilled and translated, because it has to be translated in Spanish. And I'm saying to myself, I'm like, what? So we called our lawyer, right? Because Amir has a lawyer, Arlene. And when we called her, she was like, no, that's absolutely false, okay? All this documents that they're requesting is down at immigration. Immigration already has this information, so I'm not sure why they would be asking you for it. I did have a translated version of my son's birth certificate, because when I applied for his residency, because although I am Panamanian and Panamanian American, and although I do have a cédula, okay, which is a ID stating that you are Panamanian, I had my son after the fact that I already had a cédula. So in other words, if I would have had my cédula first at the age of 18 and then had my son, I could have easily passed on residency to my son or citizenship over to my son. But because I had him first and then got a cédula, I'm not able to pass it down. So he has to go through the whole immigration process that most of you guys will have to go through. And then when he turns 18 years old, he'll be able to get a cédula because he's been here since the age of 5 years old. Anyway, so once we get through, you know, immigration and their nonsense, I was just happy just to be able to get my kids on the plane, because Amir was like really sad, because it seems like every time we have a vacation and it's time for him to leave, or when he goes out of the country, Panama always makes it extremely difficult, which to me sometimes I think to myself, did it even really make any sense for me to even get him residency here if they're going to give us so much of a hard time, or such a hard time to travel outside of Panama? And I get it. According to my lawyer, or according to Amir's lawyer, once a child is a resident of Panama, they accept that child as a Panamanian. And so they're going to protect that child. That child is now Panama's problem, or not problem. You get what I'm trying to say. So they are extra, what's the word I want to say? They go extra hard to make sure that the child is not being trafficked. So in a good way, I get it, okay? it's a form of protecting the children. And that's another thing. Panama is extremely protective over children. So I get it. But as a parent, and I know that I'm not doing anything wrong, it's annoying and it's stressful and it's annoying. So what I will suggest to you guys, if you are, or if you have already gotten residency for your child, normally 9 out of 10 times when you are getting residency for your children, they ask for the child's original birth certificate and it's already translated. So what I would do is keep a copy of the translated version and the whatever version of the passport, and so that when you guys are traveling with your kids, you can show them that, so you don't have any issues. So for me, because my daughter was born in Panama, I literally just needed to show a copy of her birth certificate and the letter from her dad. That's literally the only thing that I had to show. But my son, they wanted a translated version of his birth certificate, and because I didn't have that at the moment, they asked for the original copy of the birth certificate, which to me, it didn't make any sense. Not even in America they do this, but I guess in America there is a huge problem with human trafficking, so I guess they're trying to prevent that from happening. Anyway, guys, I felt that this was super important for you guys to know, and I want to pass this on to you just in case any of you guys are planning to move to Panama or already live here and planning to travel outside of Panama with your kids. Make sure you have these documents, okay? Because you do not want to miss your flight or to miss your vacation, your planned vacation, for something like this. So my suggestion is just bring the original copy of the birth certificate. If you have an American child or a foreign child that is a resident here in Panama, so make sure you have the original copy of the birth certificate, and get it translated. Get an apostle version and bring the original, okay, just in case, because I just don't trust the people at the airport. I honestly really don't. Like, it really made me feel like, are you guys purposely trying to not make me, for me to miss my flight? Because literally this is the second time that this happened to me. The first time was my bad because Amir didn't have residency, and so we were able to go and come as we please. Once I got the residency, that's when things got really blurred, okay? Blurred. And it also depends on who the immigration officer is at the airport, because some of them, you know, are really helpful, and then there's some of them that are just power hungry and they just do the most. If you found this video helpful, make sure you like this video, leave a comment in the comment section, make sure you are subscribed to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video. And as usual, guys, peace and love.